Folks, I'm sure y'all have noticed in the recent video with the Kangoo that it didn't roll and I wouldn't even say it bounced all that well. You could say the bundum tis with that, but really you can even go back as far as a Honda Civic and not exactly rolling. I can't remember exactly the update like number or whatever for the Civic 1 point and whatever, but since that update, it might have actually been the entire physics update too with that, I can't remember for sure. But either way, they do tweaks fairly often, even if it's not an entire physics overhaul. Either way though, however big or small it was, since then, vehicles really haven't been rolling properly, and while no, this is not the biggest deal for the vast majority of players, I do like my Jelly cars. Granted, the cars are still roll to some extent. The Bar 500 with the engine swap, I mean, it still rolls and wheelies and does a whole heck of a heap of crazy stuff. And the Suzuki Cappuccino, again, with the engine swap, rolls and wheelies and does a whole heck of a heap of crazy stuff. And to be fair, I haven't tested every single car that I know in the past that could roll, but quite a lot of the ones that you'd think would be pretty obvious to roll, such as like the Kangoo and especially the Unimog, with that being extremely top heavy and extremely high ground clearance, you'd think of all the vehicles in the game, there'd be a genuine argument that the Unimog would roll the best, and it didn't even really roll at all. I did see one video of someone going in reverse, and it was kind of at a bank turn, and it sort of kind of rolled. But I think that was more of the exact circumstance than it being able to do it on command. And I will say straightforward, too, is that I've always, since GT6 to some extent, I even kind of sort of experiment at GT5, but definitely since GT6, used the same general tune of maximum possible ride height, minimum possible for like dampers and compressing and all that sort of thing, minimum possible for the suspension stiffness, and then 0 for camber and tow. For some cars, I would have maximum ballast in the back if it's possible to get them to wheelie. And then also with the maximum tires, racing soft or super soft or whatever, depending on the game. And theoretically, that should be what works best for rolling cars. As much as there's a lot of tuning to make the cars be fun or drive as well as possible or whatever. I mean, Gran Turismo's never been the absolute most simulation in that a lot of the times might not be the best driving or the most fun. In terms of what gets the best results, in a lot of ways, is min-max stuff. I mean, you kind of figured out about tuning for a while. I mean, even people made fun of the way I tune even way back when in like GT5, when I'd have the front end of the car way up and the rear end the car way down on the front drive cars and stuff. People been making fun of me doing that since GT5. It works. And that's, at least from what I can tell, general experimentation. Of course, it hasn't been exact of tuning every little thing for every car, but in general, I've done some experiments and stuff. And from what I can tell, say for cars that do still roll, like the Barth, it's the min-max, maximum ride height, minimum of all the stuff they said, maximum grip tires is what works best, and it's still that way for general want to test it. But the point that I'm making is, if you can find an exact tune for an exact car, that can still make it roll, that I can't get it to roll. Especially if the Kangoo, or I guess the Mazda as well, but theoretically the Kangoo would roll better. Yeah, definitely post that. But the point that I'm making is that, yeah, that's not the most important thing, but it's not exactly the danest of things either. A while back, I actually wanted to do the idea of once there were actually 20 cars that I knew for certain would roll, is then I would do a Jelly Car race. But even with theoretically it being perfectly fun to roll, the AI cars don't actually outright roll. I mean, I think if you can hit them at a certain angle, they can sort of kind of bounce and stuff, and then obviously they do wheelie and kind of cartwheel around and stuff like the crazy Fiats and all that. But in terms of just an outright natural looking roll, not so much with the AI car. So that dream was kind of ruined. I wouldn't say early on. It took a while to even get to 20 cars that could reliably roll, and not just in certain rare circumstances. But it got ruined at some point, and then now that's dead. So, I mean, yeah, I mean, you might be putting two and two together. In terms of like the proper test or whatever you want to call it type video, that every time there's a new car added, that could be a jelly car, try for that. Well, I mean, unless it's something absolutely insane, and sometimes you have to wait a few updates to get an insane engine swap, there ain't really much in the way of rolling. And that's to end off this video. That's why there ain't actually anything being shown in terms of visual in the video, because there's not much to show of recent. What have you done for me lately? Not so much in terms of the rolling. I really met the most fun you see the car going on was like the Unimog challenge and stuff, with frankly the bars and all that behaving slightly more like a car than they did in the past. You can go back to watch some of like the Fiat type challenges in the past with the 0.01 Fiat versus the engine swap to birth, and they would act more insane than they do now with the AI driving them. Yeah, I mean, even of the best case scenarios, like with the engine swap to 500, it's still not as good as it used to be. And for most case scenarios, it's not particularly at all. So, I know this video is pretty boring and kind of sad to say. To make up for that, I have no idea when it'll come out. It'll probably take a while to actually do, and so it's, even at the moment, I don't have tons of room on my phone, so it might take a really long while. But at some point, it might be like a few days from now, it might be a few months from now, I'll do a best of Jelly Cars video. And most likely I'd throw some GT6 and stuff in there too, but definitely at least with 7 of best of Jelly Cars to make up for that, because, I mean, who knows how it's going to work with Jelly Cars. Maybe, again, post it in any and all descriptions, whether it's YouTube, Library, Odyssey, GT Planet, whatever it may be. If you can figure out any way to get even a specific car to roll a tune, that's very much helpful, because maybe there can actually be a new meta of tuning. Just realistically, I'm not so confident in that. Maybe it'll happen. Maybe mine's just old. Min-max tuning style has finally become outdated, but not so confident of that. But any and all help is greatly appreciated with rolling. I will gladly admit I'm wrong if it means that I can get a more cars to roll and have fun and all that. So, yeah. That probably does mean that in the future, if we get some updates, then I won't be doing like the proper test type thing, or sometimes I'll call it alternate name, but essentially like a jelly car type thing for each new car update. And I mean, as I've said, even for a while, and even that kind of got a derivative of the norm. I do my best to have a not the same track 2 times in a row, and even with like the music track, another bit of this in there too. I'd try and change that up too, to where it has at least slightly something to do with the car, or like maybe the region or whatever. But realistically, I mean, if it's not all that much fun to watch, then it's not worth doing. I mean, even still, you can even go back again as far as the Honda Civic. It wouldn't say it was outright boring of that video or anything like that, but it certainly wasn't as flashy as a lot of the previous jelly car videos either. I guess in a way you could still kind of define a jelly car as just a jelly suspension and that it kind of moves around and it can get a tire off the ground or whatever it may be. But jelly, in my opinion, at least Gran Turismo, means outright rolling. So yeah. Who knows? I mean, I genuinely am not even sure PD knows at this point. There might end up being an entire outright physics update that changes things completely, but there's no guarantee of even if things change completely, it's for the better. Or if rolling. Who knows if there even be another physics update? This might be it, and for a lot of people, it would be perfectly fine with that because they don't need to retune their cars or redo their best attempts and all the things with leaderboards or whatever it may be. So again, for the vast majority of people, it's probably not going to matter. But for the arguably outright crazy like me, then yeah, it's not the best look. But again, like I said, I guess you could word it of always look the bright side of life or best of a bad situation or whatever. Even still, as spectacular as some of the past Jelly Car videos were, even when it was working perfectly fine, it was still becoming kind of sort of more derivative of the norm. And to some degree, I was even thinking of just stopping doing those on a regular, like every single car update basis anyway, because it kind of made the most insane cars a little bit less special there too. When it do it every time and still most of them could roll. But in hindsight, then I thought more about it and that most likely I'm not getting Gran Turismo 8 at launch, so I'd have to wait for a big discount of that. And even still, it might even be a while and a half before I even get it because who knows if I'm going to even end up getting a PS5. I'm thinking of making a video on that. There's stipulations that have to go my way to even consider getting a PS5 even once Gran Turismo 8 out even for a while. So yeah, that kind of made me decide, I'll keep on doing it on a month-by-month basis because most likely in a few years once GTA, won't be doing it at all. So yeah, it's certainly at the day needs to get there, but again, to kind of make up for it, even though it wouldn't exactly call it my fault, again, I might not be perfect. Maybe I can come up with a tuning that works. I still wouldn't really call that outright my fault either, but still, I'll do best to jelly cars anyway because probably within a year or so when the update's in with GT7, I would have done a video something along the lines of that anyway. So whatever, better early than never. Maybe with the best of jelly car video. I don't know. I guess it depends on how you want to word that. Well, it certainly ain't worth the yeehaw that I can't get the jelly cars to roll anymore, but maybe y'all can, and hopefully there's some type of update in the future that can get it back to the way it was. Because realistically, I'd say for real driving simulator, it actually was more realistic in the past. I mean, a lot of people would be able to actually just have their own kind of tunes of vehicles and lots of funny videos online of people just lift their trucks and then take them out to like a mud pit or just fun, not really meant to be competitive open racing or something like that, and they end up rolling them. And just some random person without putting all that much money into it can roll their banger truck that I'm sure very much meant to have a purpose, expensive at the time, insane ground clearance, extreme top heavy, perfectly tuned to make it roll. Unimog could also roll as well. If Gran Turismo wants to be realistic, they change it back to where it was with the cars rolling. If Gran Turismo wants to be fun and draw more fans and eyeballs, they have it back to where it used to be, to where the cars could roll. And I mean, frankly, they should have it back to that, and just the simple truth of it makes for better content. As I said, we're counting to the point of any content is good content with the game, especially as long as it's been out now. It's probably best for them having more people see the game, and even if it's playing in not the most realistic way, even if it's something that most people ain't gonna do, Still say for many a reason it would most certainly be worth a yeehaw if it goes back to that car's gonna roll. Again, if you can get any type of car to roll, and whatever the circumstance or tune it may be, definitely leave that tune in the description because any and all can help. But at least from what I could tell, like general testing and all that, it ain't particularly looking the dangest right now, and that most certainly ain't worth a yeehaw.